each other.
Yeah.
But maybe you could share with us, I think it's really fascinating to me. I see the mistakes, I know they're emotionally based, but I don't understand what is it in our brains that's causing some of that. Any simple way you can explain?
Yeah.
You know, what happens to us when we get emotionally triggered in the human brain and the chemistry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a great question because because just to understand like the very basic foundational pieces of how we're operating as a human will help people when they're investing, when you're working with them, if they can learn how to do that. So the reptilian part of our brain, right, it's the oldest part of our brain. It's like the limbic system, but it's referred to as reptilian part. It's the oldest part, like I said, of the brain. And in that, you know, in the brain, like the small almond-sized organ is called the amygdala. And simply put, amygdala, flight, or freeze, right? Those are three things that most people can really identify with. And then what's in there is that kind of gets, that part of the brain gets stimulated. And it can be very impulsive, and it goes after reward, saying dopamine. It wants that, it wants the reward of that. And then as it's still kind of stimulated, it goes to, you know, the emotions are going to the cerebrum, which is 4 lobes, but for simplicity, the main thing is the prefrontal cortex, which is this part of our brain, which is for like cognitive functioning, executive functioning, rational thinking, planning, working memory, all that's going on, right? Now, interesting that this part of our brain, the prefrontal, gets pruned. And what I mean by pruned is like when you prune bushes in the spring, you're clipping them back. And this part of the brain gets pruned the last out of all the lobes. So this part of executive functioning or rational decision making doesn't really become final till you're 25, which might be the reason why a lot of car rental places, you know, don't rent anybody under 25 years old, because they're thinking these kids are going to be impulsive. They're going to be driving these cars all over the place, right? So that's how it happens. So those are the four main things, right? And the limbic, the amygdala, you have the cerebrum and the prefrontal cortex. What's important is that your brain really cannot do two opposing things at the same time. You cannot expect your brain to be highly emotionally charged by all these triggers that are going on and have rational thought. It just doesn't work. So all those emotions have to first pass through that reptilian part, that oldest part. And you got to learn how to calm it down, pump the brakes, sit on your hands, do something, bite your tongue, to calm that part of your brain down so that you can tell the prefrontal cortex, I need some rational thought. You cannot be like really charged up and think clearly. Here's an example. You know, you get in an argument with your partner or somebody, right? And you say all these things like in the moment or whatever. And then you leave and you're like, oh, you know, I really shouldn't have said. After you go away, cooler heads prevail. Though that cliche is true. And you go away, you're cleaning the bath, you're doing something, you're like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that, It's because now your brain is calmed down. That really is the goal in life. Whether I'm working with people to like teach them how to calm down so they can make good decisions, right? And it will sound like a good idea when I did it, versus what you're doing also is to help people think, now, you know, you really have to, this is a huge, you know, commitment, money-wise investment. How do you help people calm that part of their brain down so that they can do what the brain is there to do, which is rational thinking, executive functioning, and so forth. And so
it's amazing.
Yeah.